Hello everyone, quick update from Film Canada Press. If you've been paying attention the last couple of months, you might have noticed some updates on the case, ultimately all revolving around my false arrest on Easter Monday 2021 by Constables Wong and Kramer. That case is still pending, and I'm waiting any day now for the results of that. But all the same, you might have heard that Constable Hankewich, Ryan Hankewich, who assaulted me 3 days after my false arrest for trying to turn in a FOIP request while holding my film equipment, and I ended up filing complaints against him, which were dismissed by the chief. I then went to the Law Enforcement Review Board, and after submissions, while the Law Enforcement Review Board, the LERB, were considering whether to hold a hearing or whether the case was quote-unquote frivolous and vexatious, 3 weeks or so into their deliberations, Constable Hankewich resigned from the police force using a legal loophole in the Police Act that allows him to resign and not have to face a hearing because the LERB loses their jurisdiction. So now he can go apply for another police force, or I suppose possibly reapply for the Edmonton police force. Who's to say he ever quit? Maybe he just took a week off and then came back, never lost his stripes. God only knows, but it gives him a chance to get out of trouble without having to face a disciplinary hearing. He's facing all kinds of other actions. He was trying to bring a court action against another guy, Greg Z, who he claimed was harassing him online. But at any rate, if you guys have been following the story, you might have learned the last video I did. I mentioned that Chief McFee had sent a couple of just random paralegals who had nothing to do with the original case or the review of the investigation of the complaints, but just a couple of random paralegals, I have no idea who they are, just randos as near as I can tell. But he sent them to send a letter to the chair of the Law Enforcement Review Board. Now, I don't know if they were hoping to tug at his cop-loving heartstrings. Is that what their plan was? Maybe they thought if they just went to enough authorities that someone would just be a cop lover, or maybe that they could intimidate someone, make someone afraid that if they didn't obey the police, they'd find their names on that, that secret list, wink, wink, that secret list that everybody knows about of, people who are like, critical of the police, or don't make them look good. You know what I mean? Like maybe they thought that they could intimidate this person, but at any rate, they sent a letter to the chair of the LERB. Now, this was 3 weeks after Hankewich resigned, and we got formal notice from the LERB that the case was concluded because they had lost jurisdiction. And what was this chief trying to do? He was trying to put a gag order on me because someone came across my YouTube channel. As you know, the police are stalking my YouTube channel. That's what they do. They like to stalk into your life, and if you guys are familiar with the past actions of the police, they've been known to physically even stalk people, including the case of the Edmonton Police Commission member, who some police officers staked them out in the hopes of catching them driving home drunk, to try to discredit them. It's mafia tactics. It's a mafia, and it's a small group, in my opinion. It's a small group of police officers who are acting like mafia, and it all comes from the Chief McFee. Well, Chief McFee decided that he didn't want me telling you guys about all the shifty dealings that they tried to do, all the dirty tricks and the shifty dealings and the absolutely pathetic, poorly researched and poorly investigated police misconduct complaint. Just the absolute dirtiness, the crookedness, and when I say the word crooked, I'm talking about people who are deliberately dishonest or deliberately commit crimes or illegalities or unconstitutional actions, and also those who knowingly engage in immoral or illegal or unconstitutional actions on behalf of someone else for money, for power, or for advancement of their careers. That's what I mean when I say the word crooked. And I believe there is a small number of crooked cops starting from the top who engage in this behavior regularly, and I'm going to show you guys through this disclosure exactly what took place, and you're going to see for yourself, and you guys can judge for yourself why I believe that these cops are crooked. All right, but Chief McFee actually tried to have a gag order placed on me and appealed to the chair of the Law Enforcement Review Board several weeks after the case was concluded. Can you imagine you're up on charges and the judge finds you innocent, and then a month later you get a letter in the mail and it's from the judge, and the judge says, oh, you know what, on second thought we changed our mind. We want to call you back to the courtroom. We have some more questions. We're going to reopen this case. Could you imagine that? That we have double jeopardy and all different kinds of laws in place to prevent that kind of thing, because it goes against the fundamental principles of justice. Okay? But because this is a quasi-judicial review board, they thought that they could maybe twist the chair of the LERB's arm to apply a gag order after the cases had already been closed and the information was already in the public domain. So the Law Enforcement Review Board asked us for submissions, and I was really shocked. But the way that the LERB phrased it when they sent out the request for submissions was, they asked two questions, and one of them was something to the effect of, why should we consider, do we have, we're requesting submissions as to whether we have jurisdiction in this case that we no longer have jurisdiction over. So that was quite funny. It was kind of like, yeah, I thought it was kind of tongue-in-cheek from them, actually. A large number of most of the board are people that they sought out and requested them to go and join this board. Okay, it's a thankless job. All right, they work extremely hard. They're sequestered from information regarding the case. So, for example, these people were working on this case for 3 weeks, not realizing that we had already gotten information. Not only the LERB, but myself as well had gotten information from the legal counselor for the chief of police that Hankewich was about to resign, to coincide with the timing of approximately when a hearing would have been set. Okay, so we already knew this, but the people reviewing the case, they didn't have access to this information. So they're out there every day poring over legal files, legal cases, studying them. You know what I mean? Keeping in mind, folks, that this was all intended to determine whether my complaints were quote-unquote frivolous or vexatious. And the mere fact that according to their very specific rules, which are designed on purpose to give an extremely large amount of leeway to the police and to the chief, to the point that he doesn't even have to make a reasonable decision. He can be completely ridiculous and unreasonable in his decision making, and they'll still give him a pass. All right? So all of these particular rules that are meant to favor the police in these situations, and then the LERB, okay, they will determine whether your case is quote-unquote frivolous or vexatious, not based on whether it actually is designed to irritate or to waste time or done out of malice, okay, or is so preposterous that it doesn't even require a legal representative to take a passing look at it because it's just preposterous and ridiculous. The mere fact that in their opinion, before a disciplinary hearing is ever even heard, if they decide that they don't believe this has a reasonable prospect of success, all of these are just buzzwords. They can just say anything they want, right? There's no way to focus in and decide whether something is or isn't. But if according to their rules, which favor the police, okay, they don't believe that you have a reasonable chance of success, a probable chance of success, they can call your behavior frivolous and vexatious, to the point that I actually had to explain to them what the words frivolous and vexatious actually mean and have this argument with them. All right, so there was a lot of information for them to even go through, and all of this was intended to try to scrutinize my complaint, not the behavior of the police officer, not the decision of the chief, but my complaint. Okay, so the focus of this quote-unquote civilian review board is not to determine whether the police committed a crime or an unconstitutional act, but to look for excuses to dismiss your complaint. Okay? Even so, they deliberated for 3 weeks. Okay? They worked extremely hard on this case. Okay? Again, keep in mind, this is all scrutinizing me, not them. It should take you 5 minutes to determine if something is frivolous and vexatious or not. But again, there's all these special laws that favor the police, all these special rules that favor the police to give them a squeaky way out, no matter how a murder, rape, it doesn't matter. There's always some way out for them. Okay? But even so, these guys spent 3 weeks of their hard work and their time poring over legal files, poring over the minutia of every little point of law and every little definition, every little case file quoted. All right? Not knowing that we already knew that Constable Hankewich was about to resign. And then he resigns and they lost jurisdiction and it never even got as far as a hearing. So I replied to them. I refused to call it submission. I said, here are my comments on your request for submission presented under protest. And I basically quoted their own rules to them and told them that the case was already in the public domain. They'd have no jurisdiction to extend an applied undertaking when the applied undertaking was already terminated, and that they've lost jurisdiction over this case and they have no right to even ask me for submissions. The case is concluded. Thank you. That's basically all I said. And again, they deliberated for a few weeks, and I finally got the notice back, and I'll post it here for you guys. But basically, just saying that, thanks for your submissions. We thank the party for the submissions. The board has determined that we do not have jurisdiction over this case, and therefore we will not hear this request from the chief of police. And so, once again, I come back to you guys, and I'm going to call it FCP 3-0. I said 1-0 in my last video, but keep in mind that there was also the case where they tried to give me a ticket. All right, a ticket for $600 in the original arrest when I was falsely arrested. Okay, and they gave me a $600 ticket for taking pictures outside on public property on Easter Monday. Well, guess what? That never made it to court either. You know why? Because no sane judge in the face of the earth was going to charge someone for taking pictures outside on public property. They had no case, so they threw it out. So I would call that FCP 2-0. The 1-0 was the video where I announced that Ryan Hankewich had resigned. We got a tyrant off of the street, okay, and he didn't have the guts to face his hearing. All right, so he resigned to avoid discipline using a legal loophole in the Police Act, which, don't you worry, Chief McFee, we will not stop pressuring the province to revamp the Police Act, and I can guarantee you that is something we will never bend on. We will make sure that loophole is closed, and that when police commit misconducts, that mark will go on your record and it will follow you anywhere as you go in this country, so that you cannot go down the street to the next cop shop or the next RCMP detachment or whatever and get yourself another job. We're going to make sure that it's well known that you're a crook, that your career is going to be over if you continue to commit grievous misconducts and assaults against innocent civilians. And so, Chief McFee, you lose again. Are you ever going to learn, sir? Are you ever going to learn, sir, that public photography is not a crime? Are you ever going to open a dialogue? Are you man enough to open a dialogue? Do you have the guts to open a dialogue and start talking? I'm not just talking me. I'm talking about the community, because I don't do this for myself. You think I don't have better things to do with my life than just whipping you over and over and over again in legal battles? Keeping in mind that this guy's got a team of lawyers. This guy's got lawyers, paralegals. He's got a whole department, a whole legal division of the police. This is the chief of police, okay? They've got a whole team of people working around the clock on these cases, all right? I haven't even had to hire a lawyer yet. I haven't even had to present the most damning video and audio revolving around this entire case that started with the false arrest and then leading up to the assault at the police station. I haven't even had to use my big guns yet, all right? My metaphorical big guns in this case, okay? And I still beat this guy. 3-0. Are you learning your lesson yet, Chief McFee? Did you want to play some more game of chicken with me? Is that what you're looking for? You want to play chicken with me, Chief McFee? Or are you ready to start talking? Are you ready to wake up to reality, sir? That you are not the mafia. That you are not above reproach. That you are susceptible. That you are going to be held accountable for your actions. Want to go to the lawsuit? You want to go to the lawsuit next, Chief McFee? You want to spend 10 years and millions of dollars of taxpayers' money while there's gun epidemics in this town, while there's lunatics going around murdering people in Chinatown, while there's this epidemic of homelessness in this city, while there's a lunatic on the north side going around stabbing people, while there's people exposing themselves on the streets in broad daylight downtown, vehicle thefts, smash and grabs every day, you know, and you would rather waste your resources on your little weird mafia, your bizarre little weird mafia trip? Ha ha, I'm the chief, I run this town. You don't run jack, kid. You don't run jack. Are you going to learn your lesson? Are you going to obey the oath you swore to? Are you going to honor those little badges you've got on your chest? Those little metal pins on your shoulders? Are you going to honor your position that we pay you $340,000 a year to do this job? You're basically a politician. You're not a real cop. Goes out on the beats and puts his life on the line. And there are good cops in this town. I've said it many times before, folks. And I will continue to look for those good cops. And I will continue to try to work with those good cops. All right? But when you find a good cop in the city of Edmonton, you would think that they would be rewarded. But not in the case of Chief McFee. He's got his own way of dealing with cops. All right? And if you're a good cop and you try to do what your heart tells you is right, and you try to follow your oath that you swore to, and the motive of your heart when you join the police to do what's right, and if you're someone who is involved in investigating the police and making sure that they are held accountable and that they are following the law and that they are treating civilians with decency and respect and keeping the peace and being of good behavior, if you're one of those people, instead of being rewarded by Chief McFee, you are in fact detrimenting his apparent goal to build some sort of a bizarre cop mafia in this city. Because that's what this guy comes across to as me when he's going around attacking civilians, wasting money on all these bogus cases, disciplining and firing his own staff who try to follow the Constitution and do what's right. That's what you're getting out of Chief McFee. Is this guy ever going to learn his lesson? Is this guy capable of learning? Does this guy have the guts to humble himself and say, you know what? I've been doing it wrong. All right, I want to talk. I want to build bridges instead of burning them down. All right, I understand now. Public photography is not a crime. Yes, I realize sometimes cops will do things that are wrong, and sometimes they'll have to be disciplined. And that's in the public interest, that people are more likely to cooperate with the police, to talk to the police, to help the police. They're more likely to obey the laws. They're more likely to respect the police, to love the police, when they trust the police. And they can't trust the police when you're going around assaulting civilians and covering each other's butts. Blue wall of silence, that's old 1960s, 50s talk. This isn't the Stone Ages, all right? Get a grip. You're in 2022. We're post George Floyd. Get a grip on reality, sir. You don't have any authority over law-abiding citizens. When are you going to wake up? When you're ready to have a dialogue like a man? When you're ready to grow some guts and have a talk like a human being, like a man, and start getting things right and say, look, I've been doing it wrong. I understand now. Public photography is not a crime. We're going to promote public photography, and we're going to encourage and train our officers to behave themselves in public and to leave people alone when they are completely innocent and doing nothing but taking pictures or videos with a camera in a public place. They have a right to videotape the police. They have a right to videotape their interactions with the police. And by doing this, and by the police behaving themselves during those interactions in a general sense, you are making people trust the police more, and this helps everyone. This makes the police's job easier. This makes civilians feel safer, and it lets us trust the police again. I want to showcase good cops, but we can't do that when we got a guy like Chief McFee as the police chief of Edmonton. All right, the old mafioso style tactics, you're done, dude. Those days are done. Look at the scoreboard, buddy. FCP 3, Edmonton Police 0. I haven't even hired a lawyer yet, sir. Wait until I hire a good lawyer. Wait until I crowd fund. All right? Wait until we start doing big, meetups and groups. There was a group today I wish I could have gone to that was outside of the police station protesting police brutality. Okay? You think we're going away? Did you think that you could just hide under hide in a cave, hide under a bush until all the George Floyd talk went away? What were you thinking, sir? What's going on in your brain and in your heart that you think that if you just hide for a little while, you can go back to committing your crimes? Why don't you stop committing crimes, by which I mean the Edmonton Police in general, of which you're the chief? Why don't you, the police, stop committing crimes and misconduct and start working for the people and obeying your oath and obeying the Constitution of Canada? And if you would have done that in the first place, sir, you would have saved an awful lot of money, an awful lot of time, and you wouldn't be sitting there crying and embarrassed, totally defeated 3 times in a row by a single civilian, a single man. I didn't even bring out the big guns yet, sir. What are you going to do when I bring out the audio, the video, the lawyers, the crowdfunding? What are you going to do, the lawsuits? What are you going to do then, sir? What are you going to do then? You're already down 3-0. Keep an eye on the scoreboard, buddy. When you are man enough, Chief McFee, when you are a man, when you become a man, you come and talk to me. When you're man enough to have a real discussion, and we'll do it in the open. We're not going to do it in some little secret area or something like that with all your buddies around to bail you out and make you feel safe. We're going to do it in a public setting. You can either bring your little pulpit out, for your little media, call all your little media buddies that make you look good, and you can address the city and say, I'm dedicated to the Constitution and the right of people to take pictures. I'm dedicated to freedom of press and freedom of expression. I'm announcing that now, and I'm announcing new training for our staff. Or you can come onto my show, or you can address any kind of a public forum you want to have this conversation in, as long as it's public and there's lots of people around, so that everybody gets to hear and gets to address the situation. And I expect you to actually address it. Not like when I went on that, Zoom meeting for, and talked to you about public photography, and you just dismissed it. You flat out said, I'm not going to address that. Okay? I'm talking about you're actually going to address this. All right? And if you can address it, then you're not man enough to have a conversation about this. And I'll just keep whooping you over and over and over and over again in all these court proceedings. The lawsuit's going to come. The poor people of Edmonton are going to have to pay it. But that's okay, because you know what I'm going to do with that money? I'm going to set up some sort of a free legal service for other people who want to sue the cops. And that's what I'm going to put that money into. I'm going to make sure that as many people as possible can sue the cops when you commit misconducts against them, so that they have the means, that they're not like me having to do all of this on their own and fight on their own. When you are man enough, Chief McFee, you come and talk to me. Till that day, it's FCP 3, Edmonton Police 0. Once again, you lose, and very soon we're going to do our full expose on exactly what took place during that Law Enforcement Review Board disclosure and submissions, and I'm going to share with you guys what I submitted, and I'll be curious to hear what you guys' reactions are. I'm sure that some of the things that I said or did, maybe you guys could have improved on, and there will be other things that I hope will share some good knowledge with you guys. At the very least, I hope you guys will get a good sense of what's really involved and what really are the pros and cons. I mean, ultimately, there's not a lot of pros, because it's not really a review board. They're not going to review whether that police officer committed a crime and charge them. That's not what they do. It's a think tank, really, is all it is. They're just a think tank. They're more, if anything, they're more just designed to support the police no matter what they do. All right? If it's really, really, really egregious, the best that they can do is put the case back on the chief's desk, or maybe they can apply some sort of very minimalist punishment, like, oh, we're going to dock you 40 hours of pay or something like that. Extremely minimalist. There's very, very little that's going to happen. The best possible case scenario is probably what happened in my case, which is the officer actually resigns. we'll just see what kind of of an action this guy takes. If I'm being completely honest with you guys, I don't think this guy is capable of learning. I don't think this guy's brain is wired right. I think that this guy has a cop's brain. I don't know his family history. I'm suspecting maybe his dad was a cop, his dad's dad was a cop, his brother was a cop, his uncle was a cop. He comes across to me as a cop of lineage, and maybe I'm way off base on that, but I don't think that his brain is wired to understand civilian life. I think he's a very wealthy man who is used to living in a safety bubble and has no real concept of how reality works as it applies to civilians. And I don't believe for 1 second that he's going to suddenly have a change of heart and like an Ebenezer Scrooge moment where he sees the ghosts of Christmas past and present and future and turns from his ways. I don't believe that that's going to happen with Chief McFee. So I believe that we're only at the beginning of a long legal battle that will continue on for many years. And I'm prepared to dig in my heels and fight. I'm up 3-0, and I'm going to continue to win over and over and over again until Chief McFee understands that he is not above the Constitution of Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Film Canada Press. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.